I'm happy to be here, excited to kick off day 2 of the Mediapost Summit. To be honest, this is my very first Mediapost Summit, and I had no idea I would come here and face my extreme fear of falling off the side of a mountain. So where are my fellow hikers in the room? Yes, we survived. Some of us had scrapes and bruises, but yeah, these bath kits are going to be really key for us to soak our sore muscles. So thanks for having me. I will start off. I think Steve gave a really great introduction, but I'll start off of just giving you a little bit of my background and what brings me here today. I started my journey really in a more traditional marketing space. I spent some time at agencies, and then I went to work at Frito-Lay, very typical CPG circuit. But then I had the opportunity to move out to Seattle and work at Starbucks, leading the Starbucks rewards team. And that's where I really kind of started to find my passion for digital and building relationships with customers in a digital space and looking at how that can transform our businesses. But from there, I'm always looking for the next challenge. So I really wanted to hone my technical skills a little bit further and dig deeper into data-driven decision making. And so I made the jump across the city to the north part of downtown to go work at Amazon, leading prime engagement strategy and partnerships for acquisition. And that's where I really started to understand the e-commerce journey and look at loyalty from a very different perspective, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. Amazon, the average lifespan of an Amazonian is 2 years, and I'm testament to that. But really, I wanted to move back home to Texas, where I originally had come from, and be closer to family. And then an amazing opportunity came up with Yum that helped me leverage everything that I had learned and really go back to retail, which I had missed dearly, and really start to think about the QSR industry, which is so early in the stages of figuring out how to leverage digital to drive the business. So I joined in July. I'm 7 months into the role, so I'm not going to be up here like unveiling this like brand new, I have it all figured out for KFC. I still have a lot to learn, but really exciting to take everything I've learned at these other brands and figure out how to apply it to transform our KFC business. To give you a little bit of background on KFC and kind of how we're structured, we're a highly franchised business in over 140 different countries around the world, and the majority of our sales come from outside the US. So myself and Haley, who's with me today, we lead digital strategy at the global headquarters in Dallas. Our US team still operates out of Louisville, Kentucky, but at global, we're really working with all of these different countries around the globe to try and understand, like, A, what are they doing that's working well that everyone else should adopt? How do we start to build efficiencies and frameworks in place to drive a cohesive strategy around the globe? And how do we really start to accelerate the business? And so with that, we've put some thinking in place of like where we think we need to go, but when it comes to loyalty, we're still really in the early stages. I want to kind of take you guys through today my thinking of how I'm thinking about loyalty and its impact on QSR in the future. So I'll start with a little history of loyalty, which most of you guys are probably familiar with, but just to set the stage and set the context. Loyalty really started, of course, with just punch cards, right? Coffee shops, punch cards, no data, just rewarding loyal customers to really try and get them to prefer them over someone else. But really the transformation started to happen in the past decade when data started playing a more significant role. This was the rise of punch programs, frequency programs, spin-based programs that really leveraged data to drive customer engagement, starting with hotels and airlines, but then very quickly kind of moving across all different types of businesses. And we'll get to more of that in a second. But really the era that we're in now when it comes to loyalty is this era of subscription-based loyalty, of getting customers to pay to be part of a program in hopes that A, it'll prove out to be a better ROI, and then B, if they're going to pay for it, then they're less likely to churn out. And so what's happened is there are hundreds of programs now. Every single brand that you come in contact with has a loyalty program. And 10 years ago, your keychain probably looked something like this. I don't know if everyone remembers the little barcodes that you like jangle around and like 2 keys, but you have like 50 tags from different brands. The equivalent to that today is our smartphones, right? So all of these different branded apps and trying to understand, oh, do they have a loyalty program? How do I get a discount when I go here? And it's really overwhelming for customers. They are experiencing loyalty and subscription fatigue. And the reality is that the participation tends to be reactionary. They're like, oh yeah, I just give you my phone number or give you my junk email address that I have for just loyalty programs. Sure, I'll give that to you so that I can get something for free. 80% are just doing it to save money, and over 55% of accounts are inactive. They're not going anywhere. And so we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing this? So a lot of brands have tried to do new things to stand out. Like knowing those stats, okay, what else can I do to make my program stand out over someone else's? And so I'll give you a few examples. We're gonna pick on our sister brand, Taco Bell here. They'll be the first ones to admit that this didn't go very well. So this was Taco Bell's Explore program that they launched a few years ago, and it didn't require you to purchase in store at all, to transact at all. It was simply, we're gonna mine your social feeds and reward you for living moss. Now, what does that mean? Yeah, no, the customers didn't know either. It was so confusing, and that customers just didn't engage with it because it was really difficult for them to understand. So they pulled the plug on that. And then you have Chiptopia. So Ryan in the room can probably talk to this a little bit more. But this was in 2016 on the heels of the E. coli scandal. And launching this program, it was, at first glance, extremely successful. 3.6 million signups in 30 days or something? And ultimately, 33% of their transactions were coming from people who had signed up for the loyalty. But then when you start looking at the details, it was a frequency-based program, so it rewarded you with a free burrito every 4, 8, and 11. And so with a 33% transaction rate, ended up being a return of over 30%. For comparison, Starbucks' return, when you do the ratio of how much a customer has to spend versus how much they're getting in free rewards, Starbucks is 8%. It ended up costing the company $20 million to do this summer program. And at the end, their brand's perception scores didn't really move the needle. It was canceled in August, and since then they launched a new loyalty program that's proving out to be much more successful. But this is just a great example of people trying to figure out how to drive the business with these programs and finding out that they're super expensive. And then you have Plenty, poor Plenty. It was a really great concept if you think about it from the beginning, right? It's hey, instead of having all these tags on your keychain and being part of 100 different loyalty programs, what if we just combine them into one Uber loyalty program? So you have one membership, but you get benefits at all these places. Again, super confusing for the customers. They didn't know what to do. It didn't work very well, and ultimately it's ceased to exist. So many of these schemes have come and gone, and they've failed for a multitude of many reasons. Either they're too expensive, they're too confusing. So why do we do it? Why do we continue to launch these programs? And it'll be no surprise to you guys that we do it for 3 main reasons. Data, right? Access to customers, so in hopes that we can use that data and access to then drive business results. But there's something missing from this business planning and this strategic direction. And that's the customer. What does the customer want from us? Why do they want to engage in these programs beyond free food? And really, if we're doing our business, if we're doing the greatest service to our business, we're thinking about the customer in everything we do and how we can leverage our brand and our products to enhance their lives. And so really we have to start thinking about these programs in a different way and how we leverage data, access, results. Those are all important, but how do we really start to build engagement with our customers and build those relationships? So how do you do it? So what I'm going to do is take you through 3 steps of, these are just my thinkings of like the 3 things that are fundamental to building a program that really puts the customer at the center. And that's removing friction, capturing cravings, and then really getting at the motivation of buying. And so what I'll do in taking you through these 3 steps is really kind of take you, bring in some examples from the room where it happened. At Starbucks, at Amazon, and then some at KFC, which that I've learned in my past 7 months. And so I'm going to be very careful to not like reveal any secrets that aren't public since this is live streaming. But I think, but it's just going to give you my perspective and like my personal point of view from being in the room where these decisions were made and how they happened. So the first step, removing friction. So this, I think we all kind of probably in our day-to-day lives use frictionless, seamless experiences, like they're overused terms, right? Really, this is about how to make access to your brand as easy as possible. That's it. When customers want and are craving your products, you need to be there. And you need to be easy to order. And in this age of order ahead and pick up and delivery, like this is just table stakes. Like if you're gonna launch an app, you're gonna launch a program, you need to be as easy as possible. This is where we've been spending the majority of our time at KFC over the past few years and launching e-commerce experiences, order ahead, delivery across our markets. Haley's been really leading the charge on getting all of our markets to have these experiences. And when we were at Starbucks, and we were, Starbucks really being the first brand that kind of launched this concept of order ahead and then pick up in store, you would think that this is the conversation we had, right? Of like, how do we just make Starbucks just really easy to access? No. Like that was not the basis of the conversation. When we started building out we called it the MOP program, the Mobile Order and Pay program, it was how do we drive more transactions? It was all from a business perspective of, we are experiencing line abandonment. We're losing transactions because our lines are too long and people are going somewhere else because they don't want to wait. How do we prevent those people from leaving and give them the option to just order ahead when they're on their way? That was the whole premise for launching the program. But after we launched and we started to look at results, some surprising things emerged. Our customer satisfaction scores for people who order ahead versus delivery and pickup skyrocketed. They perceived our stores as cleaner. They perceived their order being of their product being of higher quality. They actually even rated their connection scores with the baristas as higher than someone who had ordered at the counter. And that was because their connections that they created with baristas weren't transactional in nature. It was, hi, how are you today? Here's your beverage, Ashley, have a great day. Like that made them feel rewarded as opposed to them trying to, okay, I want, a quad Americano with 2 pumps of caramel. Like it actually, they are able to build those connections. And then we started to hear stories from customers that, this is talking about removing friction from people's lives with this program. Customers who were a part of the deaf community didn't speak English very well, all of a sudden could enjoy Starbucks and feel like everybody else in our stores. When in the past, it was a moment of tension in their lives. And we had, Howard received email after email from customers just thanking us for this program because they could finally, get their order right every single time and not have to bring in pen and paper and have that tension at the front counter of trying to explain what they want. And so really when you think about removing friction, it's more than just having e-commerce available. It's thinking about what are the aspects, what are the friction points throughout that customer journey when it comes to your brand, and how can you build a program that removes as many of them as possible and really elevates the customer experience with your brand. So that's table stakes. Moving on to capturing cravings, this, I think, in our old school way of thinking, this is all about, okay, how do we leverage our data to recommend the right products to the right customer at the right time through the right location? And yes, that's important, but really it's more than that. It's giving customers what they want. And that goes beyond discounts. Of course, if you ask them, they're all going to say, I want free food. That's why I joined this program. This is like going beyond that and anticipating the customer's needs. So So when you go on to Amazon.com, I guarantee you every single one of us log on to Amazon.com and our homepage will look completely different than the person sitting next to you. And that's because of the way in which they're using that data isn't just about recommending products. It's about anticipating your needs and trying to put solutions in front of you so that you have easy access to them when that craving or that moment arises. So this is my husband and I share an account. So that's his name, Zarek. This is you're gonna get a peek into like our marriage probably right here because we use Amazon. We have a 2-year-old. We use Amazon a lot. So I'll kind of go through like some of like what's behind this. So I just ordered a new phone case. So it's letting me, hey, see your order, see where it is, when it's gonna arrive, how it's gonna arrive. So super easy. I ordered a new phone case because I have a 2-year-old that always wants to play with my phone. I'm ordering a new phone case like every week. My husband apparently recently viewed wedding rings. So I don't know, I'm gonna come home to a lost red. I'm sure he spun it and he lost it again. So somehow now I know my husband's been looking at wedding rings on Amazon. So great. And so it's letting them know, hey, he looked at it today. So if you didn't buy it and you want to get it again, it's easy to access. But then it's also like, hey, you haven't quite made it through the program that you were watching. So if you want easy access back into that program, you can do it from here. So this is Pink Fong, who created Baby Shark, says sing along. Obviously, I have a 2-year-old, and it's like, hey, I'm gonna just keep that one in my back pocket. I don't need to continue watching it. But it's also, I buy a lot of kids' clothes on Amazon, and it's like, hey, Easter's coming up. Like, hey, you need to start thinking about like what you might want to purchase for this. This is a really popular time to buy kids' clothes. So it's like anticipating that the holiday's coming up. They know I have a 2-year-old, and they're kind of giving me, ideas to get started. And it was the whole reason at Prime that we started to think about benefits beyond shipping. It's like, what else do customers want from programs, and how do we start enhancing the value of that program in other ways through discounts at Whole Foods. And then we launched a program. This was super fun to work on, like meeting Dwayne Johnson, The Rock. It was like fangirling out. But we got to give customers early access to see Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle in theaters before its national release. So only Prime members could go and see it 2 weeks early, before even the red carpet premiere. So we were just constantly thinking about ways to enhance the program that wasn't charging more money or trying to get more sales out of customers, but that was just really about rounding out that experience to make them really feel connected with the brand. And our Australia team at KFC does this fantastically well. They don't have a typical points loyalty program, but they've won awards for being considered, I think the title of the award was the best loyalty program you never knew you were a part of. So this is one of the biggest features that they lean on in order to drive and enhance that customer experience through kind of capturing cravings.
Now, I didn't think this thing was real until he showed me how to get on it today, and it's fucking real.
77% of app users uninstall within the first 3 days. We needed a better way to find and keep KFC app users. So we created the Kfc Secret Menu and told no one about it. KFC staff love hacking the menu to make crazy new products. So we hid them deep in the app, making them hard to find. We left clues scattered throughout KFC's digital channels, in the edit history of Facebook comments, buried in our website terms and conditions, hidden in our email footers, or even in split-second frames of our digital out-of-home ads. Eventually, someone cracked the code. News spread quickly.
So when I discovered that our KFC has a secret menu, my mind was blown.
KFC Secret Menu.
I've never actually used the KFC app, so I'm testing it out.
All you have to do is go on their app, you just drag this down.
Why do you hold it for 11 seconds?
Because it's the 11 secret herbs and spices.
They call it a beast churger.
Next level funniness.
Trying their new secret menu.
I'm just stuffing my face in front of you. This is my dream.
Resulting in over 400 million impressions, 111% increase in app downloads, 49% increase in retention rate, and nearly 2 in 3 secret menu orders included additional items. The best part? Every time we update the menu, it happens all over again. Mission accomplished.
So that's really like capturing customers' cravings and anticipating needs like that they didn't even know that they needed, right? And creating that excitement and creating engagement with the brand and driving revenue without having to give away free food. So that's capturing cravings. The third step, and this is really understanding motivations for buying. And so this really involves a lot of legwork, to be honest with you. This is about behavioral science. This is about understanding your customers beyond how frequently they're coming or what they're putting in their basket. And so Jeff has this like really famous quote about how we're not competitor obsessed. And I really like that rings very true to me. A lot of people might think like, hey, why are you sharing all these insights in front of a bunch of competitors in the room? And to me, like yes, on some levels, yeah, we're all QSR, but really if a customer wants fried chicken, they're gonna go get fried chicken. If they're in the mood for a burger, they're gonna go get a burger. And so really it's about not just like looking at competitors and trying to mimic what each other does, but it's really about understanding customers and what's motivating them to come to your brand, what's motivating them to come to the category. Start with that and then work backwards to figure out how you become relevant in those situations. And so at Starbucks a few years ago, longer than that, I'm dating myself, but we challenged ourselves to think about this in terms of the holiday season, and this is really where gamification started. And so, at the time, my boss had come to me and said, okay, holiday is a really important time, in the business, we have to drive transactions, it's our key window, like how are we gonna leverage the loyalty program in order to do that? And at the time I'm like, well, only like 18% of our customers are like loyalty members. It's like 30% of transactions. So, and I have to like drive to total systems incremental transactions with 18% of people. Okay, we'll figure it out. So we did like a bunch, my creative director and I, we put our heads in and we really started to research what are customers' motivations for buying coffee during this time of year and how does it differ from the rest of the year? And really it came down to this, it's the holiday season, they're all rushing around, there's so much stress of all of the people they need to buy for, they're time starved, they're strapped for cash, and they really want a sense of, what they really need and what they're really looking for is a sense of escape and hope to actually have something enjoyable and free-spiriting happen. And so we launched the Starbucks for Life game, which really was all about unwrapping moments of surprise and joy and placing them in the game board. So you want to play for every transaction. You got this cute little character. It's since evolved into stories of these characters that you collect, and then you collect 3 in a row and you win Starbucks for Life. And it was, it was not very expensive to launch, but it captured the imagination of our customers. And yes, it ultimately drove transactions and helped lift the business. And since then, we did the summer game, we bonus star bingo, every 3 months you're gonna see a new game come from Starbucks. And it's just all about bringing a sense of joy to the customers. And so for KFC, as I think about it, it's how do we start to build a program that's less throwing discounts and value at customers to try and get their data and get them into our brand, and more about building programs that uplift the brand and build brand engagement over time. So where do we go from here? What I'll do is I'll wrap up with 3 things that keep me up at night that I'm constantly thinking about. 7 months into the business, QSR, really understanding what's going on, and as I'm starting to build a program framework for KFC around the world, the first one is understanding the business. This whole franchise kind of aspect of the business is pretty new to me. It's hard. It's really hard. So at Starbucks, I could actually get in the ground and build, but having to influence to build, and sometimes in some of our markets that are franchise controlled is influencing the influencers to then go influence. But understanding the business, like getting and like working with the franchisees to understand like what do they need to see in the short term from an ROI perspective versus the long term, and how do you start to kind of build the economics around programs that really get buy-in quickly. The number 2 is to think global, act local. In 144 countries, it would be really inefficient if every single market was running their own like program. We need to find ways to build a framework that provides consistency around the globe, but also provides flexibility enough so that markets can bring the brand to life in really relevant ways for their customers and their markets. And then number 3, our people are really at the heart of what we do. Our team members are the ones that hand bread the chicken every single day and take such pride in their work. And so if they don't love a program that you launch, how do you expect your customers to? So how do we build a program that actually excites our team members and makes them want to engage with it? And then finally, really balancing customer needs. At Starbucks, we had the luxury of being able to keep getting more out of the program because we could drive increased frequency with even our highest frequency customers. Because it's not unreasonable to think that a customer is going to come to Starbucks every day or multiple times a day. But in the QSR industry, like, we are an indulgent category. For the most part, most of us in this room are. And so it's not just unreasonable, but also a little irresponsible for us to think that we should be driving customers to come to our brands every single day. We sell fried food, and when I want fried food, don't get me wrong, I'm like going in all in after that hike yesterday. Like, that's all I wanted was like, just give me a bucket of fried chicken. But we can't build a program around getting one more visit from our high frequency customers. Like, we have to think about penetration and not frequency. And that's probably the hardest thing that I'm faced with as I think about how to build a program, is like, how do you build a program that's so amazing that it's bringing new customers to the brand? So like I said, I haven't figured it out yet. Maybe a year from now, I'll be back on this stage like unveiling this amazing new program. But from now, I just wanted to share learnings of what I'm thinking about as I approach this industry from a different perspective and a different point of view, and hopefully it inspires you guys to go out and really do great things and build amazing connections with your customers. With that,
Ashley, thank you so much. That was thank you so much for bringing multiple brand experiences into this. It really added value. We have time for a few questions of Ashley. I'm curious, as you come into QSR from these other categories, some of which, like Amazon, used high degrees of personalization.
Yeah.
What levels of personalization are you finding valuable here? I mean, I think for a lot of the companies here, they're starting to use their apps and use CRM to move into more data-driven, personalized approaches. But in this category, do they really pay off?
No, it's a really good question. Honestly, I haven't seen them pay off very well lately in terms of personalization from a product recommendation standpoint. So what AWS is going to try and sell every single one of you guys is AWS Personalized. That's the tool that they use to personalize experience on Amazon. But what it does is it relies on having a large data set of a lot of different products to recommend to you based on your past purchasing behavior, weather, et cetera. But when it comes to a lot of our menus aren't that complex. We don't have a million different items to recommend. And so an algorithm like that is probably just going to spit out the same thing or the same one of 3 things every single time. So maybe it'll drive a little bit of ticket uplift, but probably not worth the expense. I think from a personalization standpoint, the real unlock that we have to figure out is how to personalize using third-party data sources and contextualize the brand and our amazing products and the lives of customers based on what we know about them outside of our restaurants. And that's really where I think the unlock will be. So,
Ashley, thank you again so much. That was great.